Yeah, but in the meantime.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the September 18 regular meeting of the Stoughton Area School District Board of Education to order. Becky, could you please take the roll?
Yes. Mr. Buban?
Here.
Mr. Coughlin's excused. Mr. Fry?
Here.
Ms. Fitzgibbon?
Here.
Mr. Jackson?
Here.
Ms. Sword?
Here.
Ms. Tarpinian's excused. Ms. Genter is excused. President Dirks?
Here. All right, well, we were hoping that Ms. Genter would be here. That's too bad. We'll start off with our spotlight on learning. Anne Marie Oakland is here to talk about that. Anne Marie was pretty much single-handedly the driving force behind the Lunches for Vikings program. So we wanted her to come here and give everybody summer's end report on how things went, and to thank her on behalf of all of the other volunteers that pitched in. So.
Well, on June 12th, we started the Lunches for Vikings program, and that was the first Monday after school got out. And we went the 12 weeks of vacation, so we were out for 59 days. We gave out 1,866 lunches at the 3 locations that we had, and an additional 150 lunches at other sites like Bayview. And then any sandwiches that were not handed out were donated to the youth center. So we made sure that we could use all of the supplies wisely. We felt like we had a really good success this first year. The volunteers and the generosity of the community was great. So I would be more than happy to answer any questions. I know we will be looking over how we do it next year, but I think the community embraced it and was really behind it.
So questions from anyone? Anne Marie, as a thank you to the Lunches for Vikings, the district is donating $1,000 towards next year.
So thank you.
So, and if you could just pass our thanks on to all of the other volunteers. I know you run into a lot of them all the time. Yeah. Does anybody have questions or comments about any of this? Allison?
Could you talk a little bit about where you got some of the supplies? I know that we involved some local businesses and local groups where we got food contributions.
Most of the food was purchased this first year because we wanted to kind of see what kind of costs were involved. We did have a donation of cheese curds from the Lions. However, it was all basically monetary or grants. We were able to get 3 grants. We got a grant from the Stoughton Area Community Foundation. We also got a grant from Covenant Lutheran Foundation, and one from, okay, now I'm going to forget, Landmark in Cottage Grove. So we were very lucky. And then we also had private donations come in. All the finances are being done through the Friends of the Stoughton Area Youth Center, so that is who's managing our cash.
Yoli, you had a question?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. I remember there were 3 sites at first, and one was each elementary school. And I don't know how you guys moved, because in the beginning there wasn't much traffic in some of the schools. So how do you manage that in the end?
Well, for the first 8 days, I believe it was, we were at Sand Hill, and no one had come to that site. So then we switched to the high school, and actually the high school ended up being our busiest site, which we were by the baseball diamonds, and that worked out great. One day I went there to hand out the lunches, and as soon as I pulled up, I could hear some of the kids across the street, they're here, so they were watching. So it was really cool.
Yeah. The other question was about, I also remember at the beginning you guys were kind of like, didn't know, so how many kids were going to come, the numbers to manage. Do you kind of started seeing like, well, we can manage this amount, or how do you find out?
Well, we tried to have 2 volunteers at every site to manage the amount of kids or lunches. On our busiest day, we had 50, and like I said, the busiest site was the high school. We did run out a few times, but our plan was to have a runner, and so they would run to a different site to get lunches, to bring them over, and that worked out well. And then as far as managing the chaos, if there was any, it worked out great with 2 people. So
I didn't see any chaos the few times that I was there. It was actually very well organized, and yeah, you guys did a lot of work.
yeah, we try to keep track of good numbers to kind of get an idea of how many sandwiches we would need for the next day, and so we'll know next year what to plan for too.
Joe, you have a question?
Yeah, a couple. Did it seem to sort of pick up as the summer went on, and did the word get out?
It did. There was no rhyme or reason though to how many we would get on a certain day, so it was a little hard to plan for sandwiches. We always had lunches with us because we always have the non-perishable bags, but it was the amount of sandwiches that we needed to try to figure out. Like I was telling Scott earlier, on the last Thursday we had a mom who for the first time brought her kids, and it was kind of sad because they could have been using the program the whole summer, but they just found out about it on that last Thursday. But so I think next year our numbers could go up, just for making sure that people know about it sooner. And we might switch the site. We currently, or this year we did Fox Prairie, then we switched from Sand Hill to the high school, and then we also do Kaganza. Fox Prairie's pretty low numbers, so we might have to look at maybe changing to Bayview or a different site. So those are things that the board will look at.
Other questions?
Well, yeah, I had one.
Sorry, go ahead.
Some of that leads me to my other question, which is, do we have ideas for communication next year so that we don't have people that come the last week that could have come all summer?
Well,
I don't know what the communication was, but is there something that we can do as a district, or, I mean, I know we did communicate.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering if there are other ideas to make sure.
I think
people
one
know.
thing that might help is that word from the district didn't go out about this until just a few weeks before the end of school. And I think that if we're able to communicate that beginning much earlier in the school year, that would probably help a lot. And then the social workers can get word out to the parents during the school year as opposed to after school's let out.
Yeah, we're thinking about different ways to publicize that, and one idea was maybe to use the parade in May to try to get the word out, so there's still time. And then, yeah, the district has been very helpful in trying to do emails, and we're going to see if maybe they would help us with a survey to see if we aren't meeting their needs. We need to know that. If there is something that we need to change, just because it's convenient for us doesn't mean it's convenient for them. So we'd like to see what the families need. So.
Well, that's great, and thank you very much for putting this together. There was a crying need for it.
Others? Yoli?
In Madison, I don't know if this will work for us or not, but in Madison, where they had a similar program, they had all these signs around, like yard signs, in different places around, saying who to contact or the place to go or something like that. So I don't know if that will be something to think about.
Right, we can try that.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very, very
Thank
much,
you.
Anne Marie. All right. At this point, the board would entertain any comment from the public. If you are interested in addressing the board tonight, please come up to the podium. Give us your name and your address. And is anybody interested in coming up here tonight? Okay, seeing nobody. We would normally have a legislative update tonight at this point in the agenda, but our legislative liaison is traveling with family. Dublin was the last I heard. But she did put extensive notes on the website, on board docs, so there's lots to look at there. And we should all keep our ears open for what happens with the state budget. Last I heard, it's been passed by the legislature, it's going to the governor, and he will start working on his partial vetoes. I heard on the news today, by the end of the month, they plan on having it finalized. So, district administrators report.
Thanks, Scott. I don't want to jinx it, but by all conversations, we're off to a really good start for the school year. I've been able to visit all the schools. High school I'm visiting tomorrow, and I'll be visiting all the social studies classes tomorrow. But over the last 2 weeks, I've visited all the 6th grade classes in River Bluff. I visited the 2nd grade classes at Fox, the 3rd grade at Kaganza, and the kindergarten classes at Sand Hill. Those are always the highlight of my week. I got to go out to recess with the kindergarten students. I played a math game with the 2nd graders. I heard 3rd grade students read their personal writing to me. 6th grade, I got to work with some of the experiments with some of the classes, and looking forward to tomorrow. But everybody's settling into a routine. It's good to see all the kids back, and everything's buzzing. There's just a different feel of the school district when the kids come back. It's a kind of a lonely type of feel in the summer, and then and call me crazy, but it's the vibe, and that's what I love, going into the schools and seeing the kids, and it's just a different atmosphere. So we're off to a really good start. It seems to get earlier and earlier, but this week is homecoming week at the high school. Today was mismatch day, and if you would have seen Mike Cruz and Mel Dow, you would have known it was mismatch day. I think Mike was in blue shorts and a red, or am I mixing that up? Vice versa. Blue shirt and red shorts. You could see him coming from a mile away. I didn't see Mel, but people who did say that he was even more mismatched, and different socks and ties and things like that. So it's always a great time at the high school during homecoming. Want to invite everybody to the homecoming parade, which will be 4 o'clock on Friday. It starts at the high school and kind of goes around the blocks around the high school, with a community tailgate immediately following the parade. So it'll start about 4:30, and we'll have the community tailgate up until kickoff time. And in addition to the foods and everything else, the band will be playing and things like that. So it's a great time of year to be part of that. Also going on right now on our website, and we're sending word out, it's also time that if board members, community members, parents or other staff members want to nominate a teacher for the Cole Award. Nominations are submitted online. They're due by October 6th. What happens then is, once somebody nominates somebody, then the person that's nominated gets information, and it's up to them if they want to continue the next step of applying for the Cole Award. We have an internal committee that looks at all of our internal applicants and decides if we're advancing any to the CISA, to CISA 2. CISA then takes all the ones they get and advances to the next level, to the state and regional levels. But I encourage, it's a chance to recognize that great educator. Our staff have a great impact on the lives of students. So if community members or parents or board members have stories and know that special person that you'd like to nominate for a Cole, I encourage you to do it. Next thing I had is I discovered this weekend that my Twitter account was hacked. And so all of a sudden, somebody notified me that said, Tim, that what's being tweeted right now doesn't really fit with what you normally tweet. And by the time I got to it, it was coming so fast and furious that the only thing I knew how to do was to disable my account. So I will be off Twitter for about 30 days until everything resets and I come back with a different handle and a different vibe, because for somehow I got hacked and it was a ghost retweet of retweeting different things. So so I apologize to anybody who was following me. I am now deactivated until 30 days. Then my email and my phone are no longer connected with a Twitter account, and then I can come back with a different handle and start tweeting, especially about my visits. Scott mentioned that we were hoping that Isabella was going to be here tonight. We wanted to congratulate Isabella. Isabella, along with Gabrielle Skirkman, have been named National Merit semifinalists. This is taken off of the PSAT. It's a great honor and says a lot about their academic accomplishments to become a National Merit semifinalist. The State Journal, was it a couple days ago, I think, had the list of
Yeah, it was last week. So.
everybody in the area. And so there are some school districts that don't have any. And I'm proud that we have 2 this year coming from our high school. So if you see Isabella the next time, make sure you congratulate her and kudos on her accomplishment. As you can tell, she is a very talented young lady that's involved in a lot of different things, and we're fortunate to have her as our board rep. So that's all I had right now.
Okay. Questions from anyone? All right, thank you, Tim. Next up is the consent agenda. Yoli?
Okay, this one is not as fun as last one. But I apologize if I mispronounce the name. I recommend the motion, move approval of September 5th, 2017 regular meeting minutes. I move approval of the September 2nd, October 3rd, 2017 check register and September 13th, 2017 P-card transaction report as presented. We would like to say thank you to the following individuals and groups and move approval of their donations to the district. $20,000 from Rum's Law Office, BD Scholarship for Scholarships. $15,000 from Rum's Law Office, Martha Flugum Scholarship for Scholarships. $8,000 from Rum's Law Office, Harold Slutton Scholarship for Scholarships. $1,000 from Dean Eccles Roder for Scholar Athletes T-shirts. $1,000 from Dan Prowl for Huddle Software. $800 from Stoughton Dance Booster for Pump Choreography. $500 from Renee Jacobson for equipment, supplies to support boys soccer team. $500 from Nicholas Kozolek for sheet music. $180 from Chris Witzel to purchase book for Sand Hill Library, Tana Palmer Book Club. Tree stool for outdoor classroom use at Fort Prairie from Jim Almy Landscaping Company. School supply for students from Angela Hager, valued at approximately $50. School supply for students from Tiffany Hilly, valued at approximately $145. School supplies and clothing for students in need from Kicks Unlimited, valued at approximately $150. Sandbox and sand toy for outdoor classroom use at Fox Prairie from Todd and Terry Scotland. And related cash donation budget adjustment for $46,980. I move approval of a permanent professional contract for Hillary Cheever, Macy Fleming, and Gloria Hacker for the 2017-2018 school year. Move approval of the 2017-2018 school to work agreement with the school district of Belleville, Deerfield, DeForest, Marshall, McFarland, Middleton, Cross Plains, Monona Grove, Mount Horeb, New Glarus, Oregon, Sun Prairie, Verona, Waunakee, and Wisconsin Heights.
The consent agenda has been moved for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Joe. Any questions or comments? I have just one thing. I don't know, Tim, if you can answer this or if this maybe should come from Judy. But could you maybe just talk a little bit about what the School to Career program is? Or
It's some of our youth apprenticeship, our internships, all of those programs. Cindy Vaughn, if you remember, is our School to Career coordinator at the high school, where she works with students to get them into youth apprenticeships, the youth options program, hook them up with businesses. We are in a consortium with all those schools, so that instead of each school running a separate program, we combine. We go for some of the grants and some of the funding sources as a consortium to split them up.
okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments about any of that? All right, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And that's approved. Under discussion items, we have with us from the Studer Group, Joanne Sternke and Robin Largy, to tell us what Studer does and what Studer does for us. So I'll let you take it away.
Nice to be here. Thank you so much. So, what we want to do this evening is talk a little bit about what we've been doing since we arrived in Stoughton, me yesterday afternoon and Joanne this morning. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We also want to give you some background about what we have been doing since we have been in partnership with the district in this effort toward continuous improvement. So that's our purpose. In here you're going to see some tactics. We like to call tactics or tools that, as we work with leaders, we give them options that they can use to better their practice and really help create a better place to learn, work, and achieve. That's really our vision and mission. So as we start, there is a tactic we use called ADET. And we got this from our healthcare partners. And they used it, if you've ever had a procedure within a healthcare thing, they take you back into this little room that's very cold, and you're in some sort of non-clothing. Either you're fully clothed, not clothed much, or not clothed at all. And they put you in there and they say, the technician will be with you, or the doctor will be with you, and that was it. And so that makes people very anxious, right? It did me in that situation. So they came up with this tactic called ADET, which really is acknowledging the person that you're working with, introducing yourself, more than the name, but here's why I do what I do, because I care. And then a little bit about what's going to happen and an explanation, and then thanking you for choosing us to work with. So that was from the healthcare perspective. My ADET is I appreciate the opportunity of working with Stoughton each time I come. It's great people who have great passion. And I saw that in the board this evening as you listened to the lunch with Vikings. What a great program, a great opportunity to partner community and schools and really to have a lasting effect on your students at a time when they're not in school. And we know that there are some real needs out there, and so you took that opportunity to meet that. So I've been with Studer Group for 10 years, and came there from a school district, not from a school district, but from a university. Started my career as a high school teacher, went to the university for a short period of time, and I've been working with Studer Group for about 10 years. And in that time, I worked with partners across the country. And we really consider the folks we work with our partners. We don't have a set package, but it's how do we work together to create that great place to learn, work, and achieve. So that's our promise to you as we work with you and continue to work with you. And it is work, and it is hard work, and we welcome it, as do the people in Stoughton Area School District that we worked with today and will work with tomorrow. So we just thank you for the opportunity.
My name is Joanne Sternke, and I'm the newest partner at Studer Education. And I was thinking as I'm sitting here, it's been 3 months since I've been at a board meeting. Let me explain. First of all, let me thank you for serving as board members. For 16 years, I was the superintendent in the Pewaukee School District, located outside Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I retired at the end of this last school year and joined the team at Studer Education. So I come with administrative experience. I come with working with a great board of education for 16 years, and with that sense of what you can accomplish when you collaborate and have leaders moving in the same direction as a board around goals that matter. We're going to take about 15 minutes tonight and talk with you about the continuous improvement work here in the Stoughton Area School District. And I thank you for wanting to learn more and for listening tonight and posing any questions that you may have. I'm a believer in continuous improvement. I was a Studer Education partner in the Pewaukee School District. They are still. And I believe that what we need to do is not only want to be more systematic in how we get better, but actually put things in motion that allow us to be more focused and more high achieving in accomplishing those goals in the name of your mission. And so it's work that I love. I love working with great leaders. I like working with great boards just as much, focusing on that work that when we do together is really powerful. So as I close, I want to say thank you. Thank you for this opportunity tonight. And thank you for investing, and that is a key word that I like to use. Thank you for investing in the leaders in your district and helping them get better at improvement. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens with commitment and with focus and with attention about what really matters. So I commend you for that. And with that, our promise is that we will be brief so that we can answer your questions, but our bigger promise is we want to help you achieve your goals for all students in your district.
Right, and that is our goal. So today we've met individually with your building level leaders and one of your directors, and then tomorrow we'll meet with the remainder of the directors, and that focuses on what are the goals that your area has for this year that align to the district goals that are going to get to that place of improvement, to really move results and move performance. And we just had great conversation today, and a lot of times I think that's very important. And often in education and perhaps in other professions, we don't take that breath and really have a discussion. So it was a great opportunity for us, and I hope for your leaders as well. Studer Education, most of you know, but Studer Education is part of Studer Group. Studer Group is a healthcare coaching and consulting firm. Studer Education was born from Studer Group and based on many of the same premises and the tools and the tactics, but tweaked to fit education. The reason for that, our founder, Quint Studer, began his professional career as a special education teacher in Janesville, Wisconsin. His passion is always education. And when you see some of the tactics, they look like teaching tactics because that's what he used, what he knew. And he was very effective, so effective in helping hospitals really move their patient perception of care, which is really very important. That he's grown into a very large company, but his passion was always education. So he came back to that, had a relationship with our senior leader, Janet Pilcher, because she was at the university at the time, and he kept saying, When you're ready to come work with me, I want you to come because we can do great things in education. And we think we have. So Studer Education was born in 2010. We started with 3 partners, and we now have over 50 partners. And not that the growth is a great thing, but we think the work we do speaks for itself. And the impact we make is really important to us, and important that that's what we do. So as you can see, our mission is really to create that great place to work, and that great place to learn, and that great place to achieve. We want to be able to provide resources and support to our partners that is very research-based, very evidence-driven. That's why we call what we do an evidence-based leadership framework. And our focus is on leadership, but that is aligned throughout an organization, very system-oriented, as Joanne spoke about. The foundation of what we do are these 9 principles, and we think they're exceedingly important. Everything we do comes back to these 9 principles. We start with the first one. We ask our partners before we ever start the journey together, are you really committed to being an excellent school district? And our definition of excellent is that every school, every department is excellent. They're not pockets of excellence, but we are an excellent district. So that's our starting point. We measure the important things. We think evidence is important. What's the data say? And how do we know that we are meeting our goals if we're not looking at that data over time? And then you can read the others. They're all equally important. 8 and 9 are very important to us, and some of the things we've spent time talking with leaders about today, and that's communicating at all levels. And so when we talk about communication, we think you have to begin with the why. Why are we doing this? Why is this important? Why is this significant work? And then we move to the what and the how. So that's a very important part of what we do. And then recognizing people for good work. We don't, and you all did a great job as your first item on the agenda this evening. It's a great thing to do, to recognize people for good work. We don't often do that. So the strategy, and I thought this slide was important. So you all had a great community gathering, had great conversation around district priorities, school district priorities. So now the question is, what are the things we have to do to execute that plan? So it's great to have goals, but how do we know we meet them? And what are we going to do in order to achieve those goals? So that's the work we do around what are those strategic actions, what are the metrics we're going to use, and then every 90 days are we looking at those things and saying, do we need to make adjustments? That's some of the conversation we had today. So when you're looking at those, are you willing to make adjustments? Some of the campus leaders said, we're already beginning to make adjustments. So it is one of those things when you're working with people, there are adjustments that will have to be made. So that's sort of our work in a very tight nutshell. We always think you begin with a diagnosing situation. So where are we right now? If we want to improve student achievement, where are we? Have we looked at the data and said, here's where we need to focus our attention? Once we do that diagnosis, then we can set the right goal. Once we set the right goal, what are the behaviors that need to exist and the processes that need to exist to help us meet those goals? And then how do we make sure we keep all of those things moving in the same direction? So that's really the focus of our work. Aligned goals, aligned behaviors, aligned processes based on evidence, what we know. We do surveys. I know you've heard about that because I hear people call them the Studer surveys. They're really not. They're Stoughton Area School District surveys. But that we do surveys as a part of that diagnosing. And the purpose of surveys is to give folks information to use for improvement. Create that great place to learn, work, and achieve. That's really the purpose of it. And the other thing that we focus on with the surveys, you can give a survey, that's not the important part. It's what do you do with the results from that survey? How do you share it with the people who participated in the survey? And how do you then take that information and that continuing feedback and create an action plan for improvement? So we administer a survey, roll out the results, and create an action plan for improvement. And that's the key to that continuous improvement. Diagnose, set your goals, what's the behavior, what's the process that we need to be successful. So the district does 4 surveys. 3 of them are through us. Employee engagement, which is the degree to which a supervisor provides the type of work environment that allows folks to perform at high levels. District services is the quality of service that leaders receive from district departments. What's the level of quality of service? And then parent satisfaction is exactly that. How satisfied are you with the school your child attends? So the employee engagement is done twice a year, once in the fall, once in the spring. District services is done the same, twice a year, and parent is done in the spring once. And so those surveys are used, again, to gather information to inform practice within the district, to inform what we do in the district, to create that great place. I did want to tell you, since some of you are new, we do reliability studies on our surveys. And anytime you have a reliability score of above a 0.9, it's considered an excellent survey. It's considered reliable. So you're really measuring what you intend to measure. And as you can see there, all of ours are above a 0.9. So we are very confident in the surveys that we have. So these are the district goals for Stoughton for 17-18. And the one, I think that they're all interrelated, all having to do with diagnosing and determining where to go next. And I think the surveys especially speak to that effective two-way communication practices to promote understanding and involvement of families, community, and staff in priorities and initiatives. So I think that's the alignment piece of the surveys, very clear, though they're involved in others as well. So I wanted to share with you the latest results. So this is the employee engagement. And so there have been 3 May administrations of the survey. And you can see that over time, the N up there, the number of people who participated each year. The areas that we've talked about today with leaders has to do with feedback and that communication of feedback. And so that's an area that they've determined they want to work on and that they're going to have discussions with their staffs about. But almost to the last person, that was an area that they thought was an area where they could grow as a leader and could work with their staffs in a more productive and helpful way. And you can see that the first administration was a 3.78, and then it went to a 3.70, and then up a little bit on the last administration. So we're beginning to see a little bit of an upward turn. So this is the district services survey, and remember this is the one about the quality of service from district departments. There are 5 quality indicators. Accessibility, can I reach a live person? Accuracy, do I get what I ask for, or is a substitute communicated? Attitude, do I get service with a smile? And we tell folks people can see a smile through a telephone, so that's something to think about. And then operations, is the day-to-day operations effective and efficient? Timeliness, do I get what I asked for when you promised it? So that's something that we talk about. Sometimes we tend to overpromise and underdeliver, whereas we should be under-promising and over-delivering. So that's kind of that. Yes, sir.
This survey here was of administrators?
Yes.
Okay. Just
Yes.
want to be clear for everybody.
Yes, the people who participate, thank you for asking that question, I'm sorry. So in the employee engagement, it's every employee in the district is invited to participate. The district services survey is the leadership in the district, assesses the quality of service they receive. Thank you for asking that. Yes, sir.
Is the scale
1 to
based on 5? Okay.
Yes, 1 to 5. Thank you.
Do we have participation rates somewhere, or?
That's what that N is.
See the
That's
end?
number.
Thank you.
Yes,
You-
yes.
But does it signify percent participate? Is it 70%? Is it 80? Is it,
No, sir.
okay.
No, sir. It's just the straight number, the end.
Mhm.
So then this is the parent satisfaction, which is given annually. And again, we were beginning to see an upward trend. There's been a little dip, but there also was a dip in participation in this if you look at the difference between 16 and 17. In my conversation with campus leaders today, it was around maybe we should do this one a little earlier in the spring because this one was done in May. So we're thinking that maybe participation would be better earlier and maybe during parent conference time. So we're looking at some different options there. In 2016, there was really an effort, I think, by everyone to encourage every parent and caregiver to participate. So we did have high participation rate. The two areas, again, that we've talked about with campus leaders here was this feedback from school staff about my child's learning. And again, these are communication things, and they probably are doing them, but are they doing them in a way that makes sense to parents? And really, are we talking to parents about what we're trying to do and why? And then positive phone calls, notes, or emails about my child. And there have been several efforts. They knew this was an area where they needed to work. So several of the campuses have that kind of as a priority, and they're trying to do some very positive actions in communicating with parents intentionally about children and doing that in a way that's not the same children all the time. Yes, ma'am?
So this is for all the parents in the district, all the schools?
Everybody.
You know, and was it done by school too?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so we can have that information.
Correct. And the schools see there, they see the district, which is important because they're part of the district, and then their results, which is, does it compare, and pretty much yours aligns. It's pretty similar. Yes, sir.
Could you please explain what the rating system is? So 1 represents,
So 5 is strongly agree.
okay.
So like my child's learning is a high priority at this school. Strongly agree,
Oh.
agree, mixed feelings, disagree, strongly disagree.
Thank
I'm sorry, sir.
It's okay. I'm one of those analytical way.
And you can tell I'm not really young, but we had great conversation around this. I think this is an area that there's opportunity for great growth and communication with parents, and we just need to take advantage of it. So one of the things, and we even talked to Tim about this, but we have really been looking at our surveys and how can we provide better service to our partners from the surveys. One of the things we know is that the results need to get to partners sooner. So we're working with kind of an online system that will provide you more information in a more timely manner. We're also looking at this thing called top box loyalty, which is what business and industry often look at. And so when you're looking at that 1 to 5, what we know is if someone marks you a 5, they are with you. They are loyal. You can mess up and they're still going to be with you. Think about your favorite restaurant, right? If you would rank them a 5, even if they mess up one time, you're still going to say, that's a great restaurant, I'm going back, it was just a fluke, right? A 4, I kind of like you, but if you do something really bad, I'm done, right? But then that 3 to 1, that's that area that they're just really not with you. And so this, we think, when we look at this top box loyalty, that will give districts something to really use to compare and to move toward, rather than just that 3.5 or 3.7. But what's our top box loyalty percentage? And then how do we move that up? Is that, am I explaining that well?
And it won't replace the means.
Right.
It will be additional information. It gives you stretch goal opportunity.
Yes.
And how do you, so, let me go back. So, customer could be, depending on what you're measuring, it could be staff, it could be
Parent.
measures. Okay.
Yes.
Parent.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
each of the surveys,
Uh-huh.
we will provide this look at the data.
Okay.
And it's just another way, as Joanne said, of looking at, so if you have 65% in that top box loyalty category, do you want to get to 75%? Do you want to get to 70? So that becomes your goal rather than to move your mean. Does that make sense? So it's
Yeah.
just a different comparison and way to look at it.
But the survey is the same. The
Correct.
questions are
It
the
is.
same. It's a different way to see it, right?
Right.
Correct.
It's just, yeah, it's
Just
another way
calling
to
out how many 5s you
benchmark.
get.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay.
another way to benchmark.
Other questions from anyone?
So now y'all have to look at my children. And these are not my children, they're my great nieces and nephew, but I thought it was interesting. As we reflect on our jobs in school districts, I really think our primary job, our commitment, our passion has to be growth for every child. So a year's growth for a year in our school. So I think that's how we have to look at it. So this is Rowan and Lucy at the beginning of the year this year. And this is Rowan at the end of the year this year. You see the difference? Some people ask me, is that the same? Are you sure that's the same kid? It is, I promise. But it's that year's worth of growth, and that is so important. And then in this one, this is kindergarten, and this is 3rd grade. The young man is now in 8th grade. He used to love school over here in 15, 16. So I called him this year at the beginning of the year, and I said, okay, Oliver, you really looking forward to this? I hate school. So it's that difference, but I think it's really, our commitment in education has to be for every child to grow. Has to be.
Could be the school uniform.
Just saying, yeah. Also, you can tell Louise, we are healthy eaters in my family, that definitely so. So, I'd be happy to answer any additional questions. Joanne and I are going to be here tomorrow, as I said, continuing our discussions. This is the first time we've done individual discussions, and we just think it's been very helpful for us, very rich conversation, and think very positive. So.
Maybe, if I could just jump in, if you could just tell us what were your discussions today and what are they going to be tomorrow so that we have a better idea of what.
So thank you. So it's around the priorities. So the district has their priorities, and so our discussion with leaders was, what are your 2 to 3 priorities on your campus and your department, and how do those align? And then the other thing we talked about was rolling out the survey data, why that was important, and then kind of the start of school. What was the perception about the beginning of school? What did they see? What challenges did they see that perhaps they change next year? So it's just a reflective conversation.
Okay.
But great, very, very good.
I'm sorry, Allison, go ahead.
No, one that's kind of like a little, maybe a nitpicky question. You might have said it, and maybe it doesn't matter.
That's
Just
okay.
wondering, when you were talking about reliability,
Yes.
how is that calculated? I know, it's like a
Can I
statistics
send you a
thing.
response? Because I'm not the person to answer that.
Okay.
I know there is a statistical analysis that is done, and it's based on the number of responses over time and how they determine that reliability.
Okay, and I mean, that's part, I wasn't looking like for like an
Yeah.
exact formula, it was more what goes into it.
That's-
I mean, number of responses and then,
Yes, so until our database got large enough, so this is our second reliability study that we've done, and our reliability went up, but our database also increased,
okay.
the size of our
Okay.
database.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
That's okay, you don't have to give, I just was kind of wondering where, I thought maybe
Yeah.
that's where it came from.
yes.
Okay, and then we talked about, you touched briefly on the strategic planning that the community did.
Yes.
So is there, when the 90-day action plans, is
Mhm.
that?
That's
something
what we're
that's-
talking about now. So what are those strategies
Okay.
that we have in place to move us toward that goal? And then in 90 days, we're going to revisit that and say, where
Yeah.
are we?
Okay,
Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that makes
So
sense.
that's that 90-day sprint we talk about, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Steve?
Well, there's a lot of information to digest, and
Yes.
being a new school board member, I'd
Yes.
like to I really would love to learn a lot more about what's going on. I'm analytical person, so that's why I was asking some of those questions, but some of the district goals, so this is the first time we're seeing them,
Mhm.
so, thought maybe we'd have a little more opportunity to digest that and talk about it a little bit before seeing this in a presentation and learning that our leaders are having discussion and we've yet to really have a discussion. So I'm not
No,
commenting
that's
on
fine. Yeah.
the presentation or the materials, but some of the district goals, trying to figure out how we would actually measure them, because they're not necessarily hard. You know, something I can say, well, we'll do these 10 things, and that equals performance.
Right.
So, would love to learn a little bit more at some point in time about slide 10. And maybe that's to Tim or whoever, not sure. But because this is our first time seeing them,
Uh-huh.
I'd like to understand how we're going to measure them.
So I think that would be helpful, and I think probably we could have folks share their individual plans with their goals on it. The folks we have talked to today have very specific goals with metrics attached. So we're very focused on that. Because we agree with you, it's hard to measure performance without a metric.
So follow-up on that is, where are we then with the other metric discussions that we've had with some of the other other meetings? We had a board development meeting around metrics.
It's taking all that information, Steve, and trying to pull it into one so we don't have 5 different documents.
In this group?
Yes,
Student?
right, with all the different things. So
Okay.
one of the things that will be shared with you shortly is the tactical plan. Tactical plan lists the goals and what we're doing under each goal. So you have the district and where we're going kind of broad measure. We have our tactical plan, which are big areas we're working at, and then you have each department in each building that has even more specific goals on how they're going to do that. We're trying to align all those. One of the things that we've struggled with in the past is we haven't done a really good job of aligning that. And we've been all over the place and moving in multiple different directions. In an ideal world, and what is something that I want to have next year, we're getting to the point where middle to end of September. So I apologize, and I'll take ownership for some of maybe the lack of board discussion, because we can't wait to set goals anymore, because if we wait till October, November, we're already halfway through the school year before we're setting those metrics. Right. In an ideal world, and what I would like to have in place for next year is we have this discussion in June. So in June, after our data retreats, after the buildings and the district looks at all the data, we have a comprehensive discussion, and that we then set the district goals for the year, so that we know what the 18-19 school year goals are. And then the administration can align our goals with those. And it all builds so that when we hit in the first day of school, our staff already know what our goals are because we've had the in-service. We're all headed in the same direction. And so I'm trying to play catch-up right now as far as get that alignment, get the somewhat, some of them are broad, some of them are, but the goal is to get that alignment this year so that when we hit in June, we have the alignment taking place, we can align even further for next year, if that makes sense.
I think in fairness, part of it too is that we didn't do the community update on the strategic plan until April. And part of that is because it took a while to get that all planned and get people invited. So, yeah, we couldn't have had it done by June, having only met in April. But I agree with Tim that ideally you set it in June, put it in hard copy over the summer, and get everybody lined up for the beginning of school.
And that's exactly. And what we would encourage you to do as a board is maybe set aside 3 or 4 hours on a day, and let's come in, let's let folks share the outcomes for the year, and then talk about the challenges they see, and then have your opportunity to talk about those things and provide input as well. Because it really, the district goals are important because they do set the course, but again, I think we could go back to that year's growth for every child. I think there's some basic ideas we could talk about that I'm sure we could all agree upon and could help us move forward.
Other questions?
And you all have our contact that's my cell number, and I do answer it, I promise. So please call us if you have any questions. Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
So I don't know if this is for you. Thank you, first of all. I'm like Steve. I'm new, relatively new to the board. So, and maybe Tim and Josh, but I'm sort of struggling a little bit. We did the strategic plan session with Howick, and then a few weeks ago we did work with, and their name escapes me, with that board development. And now you're doing work with us, and I'm struggling to see how this all aligns or how this is all married. I mean, we're now out, we're subcontracting with a lot of consulting firms right now, it feels like. And what is the sort of the plan of trying to bring all this together and synthesize? And maybe that's what you're talking about, but I am a little confused.
So that's what I'm trying to do. So the information that we got on April 8th in the strategic plan, your strategic plan is your long-range vision. Your strategic plans are 5-year plan. It's not worth the paper it's written on if we say this is our 5-year plan and don't do anything. So taking that information, taking when the board retreat, and then the second part of that was Judy's presentation, where we're starting to talk about 3 different ways that we are going to look at monitoring student and district success, and that's our achievement data from standardized test scores to classroom achievements to Fontes and Pinnell to STAR to what we had the discussion on 2 weeks ago, I think it was, on college, career, and life readiness indicators, dispositions, skills. And then the third point that we're looking at is student engagement. So the trick is to bring all those things together so we don't have those separate entities. So the strategic plan, which will be coming to the board shortly, is our 5-year plan. The district goals and the tactical plan that we have along with it is what we are doing this year. This is our 1-year glance. Everything that's in the strategic plan over the next 5 years should make it on one or more of these tactical plans. Because then we're going after what we said we're going after in the next 5 years. And aligning all those things. So that's what I'm trying to do, Tim, and I agree with you. There are some times that I sit and I'm looking at 5 or 10 different things and I'm trying to bring it all together, because if we have separate entities, you know as well as I do in education, we tend to just pile on things here and we do this program and we don't connect them all. And so that's what I'm trying to do working with our administrative team, is connect all these things so we have one comprehensive pathway and vision and approach, and this is where we're going. We are at the point, to be honest with you, that we've admired some of the things we need to do for too long. We have to do laser focus and do it. And that's what we're trying to do, to be focused and really strategize what we're going to do and what is going to move us to the next level. Because we have to. It's time to roll up our sleeves and do it and just get it done.
And I think in simplest terms, we don't develop the plan, we help deploy the plan.
Right.
And so we're about the operationalizing of it and creating a system that brings clarity to making it happen. Not the community part where it's developed, but how do we help not only Dr. Onsiger, but principals, department leaders operationalize that plan.
Yeah, I think the way that I would explain it, Tim, is Drew was used to help facilitate the community discussion on updating the strategic plan, gathering data from the community, because that's primarily what that meeting was gathering data. The board development meeting that we had a couple of months ago was helping the board figure out how it's going to work with administration, and as you just said, you're going to help us get the tools out, figure out which tools we need and which hardware we need to put it all together. So
So the 5-year plan is a draft of it's coming.
Yeah. One of the things that I'd like to have a discussion with, or some ideas of, I feel a little uncomfortable me standing up and saying, here's what I think the 5-year plan is. To me, it should be more of a discussion. It should be a discussion of this is what I heard, this is what you heard, this is the feedback, here's some kind of a draft to get us started for the conversation. Instead of, because when we present for the first time, it almost seems like I'm looking for, or we're looking for approval or not approval, and what we're looking for is a discussion on are we on the right track, and what you heard and where you're going, and from the April 8th and the conversations we've had, are we on the right track, and is this where we want to go as a district? Because it can't be just the board's plan, or it can't be just administration plan. It's got to be our plan and the community's plan and the district's plan of how we're going to work together to get us to the next level and make us a great district. And so that will be, we're in the stage now that we have something to share, but it'll be a discussion format type of thing of let's discuss this and let's get feedback and let's look to see, is this on the right track, and are there things we should add, are there things we've missed, are there things that are in there that really know that we don't think that's on track? And so that's the type of process we need to have. And then my goal would be then, once we get that, then we bring back in that group that had on April 8th, and we have the same discussion somewhat with them. You know, this is what you told us, this is what we heard, this is what we're going to do. Are we on the right track? And then it's aligned with the community. And then that's the power of we're moving together.
So, other questions for Studer? Yes?
Yeah, so I've been here, I guess, 4 or 5 years, and have we been working with you that long, right? I think. So, and I know that we see you and you come and present the surveys, and you said you were here today, but I've never been clear on how often are you here and what other things are you doing that the board doesn't see? I guess I'm wondering what the scope of our relationship is with you guys.
So I come about 4 times a year, depending, and usually I work with Tim in advance around what's an area that we need to take a look at. Sometimes it's the survey data and what are some things that we could do in particular areas that would be helpful, and it's around leader development. Other times it's around communication. We've spent time on the leadership team and how that's organized and information communicated out. So it really is driven by the district and the needs of the district. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but 4 times a year.
It's just, you know, and is that pretty typical with the partners that you work with?
Yes.
It's just that we don't see all of that.
Yes.
I see you from time to time,
Right.
and it's always very nice, and you do a good job presenting,
Thank you.
you know, the surveys for us, but then I just don't know
And
what else you guys are doing to move the district to a district of excellence that
Yeah.
we're not aware of.
And we have, if you remember, a year ago, we did a closeout of Dr. Onsager's evaluation, because you all have always used the district goals as the basis for his evaluation and that sort of thing. So that's also something that we work closely with, to give you the opportunity to provide some feedback to the superintendent concerning what he does in particular areas.
That was helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I've got a couple of things that I wanted to ask. When you say 50 partners, you're talking about 50 other school districts that you're working with, right?
Correct.
The surveys, I seem to remember in prior discussions, and maybe I remember wrong, but is there comparable data that we can look at for these different surveys with similar sized sorts of districts to ours?
So we don't use demographics,
Right.
but we do use our partners. We do provide benchmarking data that says in relation to all of our other partners, where are you?
Right. I guess that's what I'm getting at. Obviously, we want to see our numbers improve year to year, survey to survey.
Right.
But I think it would also be helpful to see how we compare with other districts.
Yeah. And you're not uncommon. That's what.
Well, that's what I remember, but
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
I might have remembered wrong.
No, that's
Thank you. And then there was another thing that I think we've, as a board, have talked about at one point or another. Is there any way that we can customize these surveys at all to add a couple or more questions of our own, just for our own use?
Yeah. Usually what we say, we think, and research says, the more Gallup-like, and I'm going to use that term, the shorter, so a one-pager,
Right.
is your chances of getting good responses increase. So generally with our partners, we say 3 to 5, no more than that.
Right. Well, because I'm thinking there might be certain
And
things
it might be one,
that-
just a couple of years
Yeah.
you want to ask that
Right,
question.
right.
Yeah.
Or there might be just 1 or 2 particular narrowly focused issues that aren't really addressed on here. that
Right.
Okay.
Yes,
But that's something we can work with.
absolutely.
Okay.
And parent as well, parent and employee.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions from anybody?
Well,
Steve,
along
go
those
ahead.
lines, trends would be nice. We did have the information that showed 3 years' worth of data and ups and downs, but if there's something that's
We can give
longer?
you, I can send you some charts, I sure
Okay,
can.
that'd be
Would that be helpful to you? Sure.
I don't think we've been doing the surveys here for more than that, though.
Okay,
I believe that what's there is.
yeah, that's
is
it?
the
Kind of the
history
trend,
it here
yeah.
If that's
in
it,
terms
then
of the trends.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
So there isn't.
Yeah, we
more
do
that way.
try to give you all of the data so that,
okay.
and leaders as well, so that they can see over time what has occurred.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh,
But comparables can be provided.
yeah.
Anybody else? Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think it's for these guys, but are we gonna see this broken down by school at some point, or?
If we can, I think we'd like to.
Yeah. The only thing we recommend is the comments not be shared because people's names are
Oh, sure.
in there. But the full report you should see.
You mean the comments not be shared with the public or shared with?
Shared with the board, normally that's what we say. Even with schools or departments, we say don't share all of the comments, but talk about themes that you see in your comments. Just
So we'll
because-
have a synopsis of the
Yeah,
comments.
oh, absolutely.
Because comments are often
Yes.
very constructive.
Well, the
when
comments
they're
help
written.
you make sense of the numbers, hopefully.
Right.
That's what we're hoping.
It-
Yes, sir.
Are the surveys done in confidence?
Yes,
Okay,
they're anonymous.
So,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Right, but I think what you're getting at is the comments might refer to, you know, principal so-and-so did or
And a
didn't do
child
this.
and a
Yeah.
teacher and a, it's just, it gets messy sometimes.
Right. Okay. Anything else from anybody? All right, well,
Thank
you
y'all for
both.
your
Thank you
attention.
very much.
Thank you very much. And really for your commitment to the school district. That's great. And being board member is not often the easiest thing to do, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
All right, we'll see you again soon.
Absolutely.
All right, next up then is discussion on the compensation plan. As you'll all recall, at the last meeting, we took a vote to ask or direct, I should say, the the compensation committee to go back to work to try to come up with a new compensation plan by the first meeting in May. And then we did talk a little bit too about what are we going to do about the present compensation plan. And the reason that it's on the agenda for tonight is a couple. First of all, we have to make a decision on that. It's not up for a vote tonight. I don't plan to put it on the agenda for a vote until the October 18 meeting because I want to have a full board available to vote on that. I realize we're likely to have one brand new board member participating in that, but I just don't see how it can be helped. We also can't put it off any further than that because we're meeting with the two bargaining units on October 24. And the Employee Relations Committee, when I say we, the Employee Relations Committee is meeting with the two bargaining units. And it would be very difficult to have any kind of constructive discussion if the Employee Relations Committee doesn't have any direction from the full board as to whether we're going to continue to keep the present plan in place. So I'm opening the subject up for discussion right now. We're not taking a vote on anything, but I think we all ought to talk about whether or not we think we should keep the present plan in place. Go ahead, Steve.
I think that there's a level of fairness in allowing staff who may have had an opportunity to level over this year to have that opportunity available to them. So having it in place one more year, I don't know that it's gonna, how many people would take that opportunity out, but it seems fair.
Okay. Becky or Erica, do either of you have any clue as to how many people might be able to level up this year if we kept the plan in place?
There'd be two groups of people. There's about 20 educators that could opt in. So that's
Okay.
one process. And then the leveling over would be well, being eligible and then choosing, and they haven't
Right.
made that choice yet, so I'm guessing that it would probably be around 50 educators.
50 total.
No, well, 50, but all of them have those 20 that are opting in.
Okay.
So we could have 70 different.
So we're looking at more than a quarter of our teaching staff.
Possibly.
Yeah, as many as that.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Steve.
So the opt-in is because they're in their third year? Could you explain that? Thanks, Becky.
When we rolled out this plan, educators had the option to opt out. And they could be out for, I believe it was 5 years.
Okay.
And so that means they could be out there kind of watching how the plan unrolled. And when they decided to opt in, then there is a process to determine where they would fall on the compensation plan. And once they're in, they're in. So we have, like I mentioned, about 20 that are not on the plan at all.
So they could opt in,
Yes.
and immediately have the opportunity to level over?
No, when they would opt in, you only level over on the years that you're evaluated. So, you know, that's kind of a little twist that we maybe haven't looked at, but I would say that if you're opting in, we're looking at the same type of criteria for where you would be placed on the career ladder. And so there would be, I don't see why there would be another separate meeting to level.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Other questions? Joe?
I guess one concern that I have, and I've had many concerns with this plan as we've gone along, but now that we're faced with maybe just getting rid of it for the current year, I'm wondering, what does that make us look like to be a district with no plan? I mean, is that, I would think, is unusual and not attractive. So I'm wondering, are there tweaks that we can make to this plan that are practical, or are we better off, like Steve is saying, just leave it in place, boards and all? I mean, we all know it's got problems, but I'm wondering if the absence of a plan isn't worse. I guess that's my concern.
I think you also have to consider that, and this is just my opinion, but I think as much as I'd like to see the compensation committee be able to come up with a new plan in 7 months' time now, I think that's really optimistic. You know, as Tim said in his board notes last time in this, there are at least a couple of people, as I understand it, who are on that committee who are ending their service on that committee, which means you got to get some new people, bring them up to speed, it's hard to imagine a constructive meeting taking place much sooner than November, and that's probably really pushing it. Because these people all have regular jobs. And it's not like the meetings that they've had previously didn't involve a lot of work. So what I'm getting around to is, I think that's a valid consideration. If we don't have a plan and they are unable to meet the deadline that we've set for them, then what?
Are you saying you think there's some possibility that we could not have this for next year, in which case we would go into a hiring year with potentially no compensation plan to describe to somebody that was thinking about coming here?
Yes.
That
But what
sounds
we've got
scary.
right now is people that are being hired and they're being told, well, we have a plan, but it's being revamped and we don't know when the revamping is going to finish.
Have a plan, no plan.
I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just saying these are things we got to think about. But as to whether or not we keep it, the Employee Relations Committee really needs to know at the October 18 meeting, are we staying or are we not?
I agree with you. Can you describe then, if we were to decide to not have a plan, what will then the mechanism be for determining pay levels or staff.
Well, that's something that the Employee Relations Committee has to figure out. I mean, right now, the Employee Relations Committee has board authority for X amount, and that amount was set when we were in executive session. How that gets distributed, that's your question?
Yeah.
It could be a flat dollar amount, it could be a percentage, there are any number of ways that that could happen. What we've done the last couple of years is, it's been obviously cost of living, everybody gets that, but then the supplemental pay has been based on a percentage increase of the midpoint of the step on the career ladder that you're on. So if we get rid of that career ladder, that's why we need to know, why the Employee Relations Committee needs to know, are we going to have a career ladder anymore or not? Yeah.
Well, just to respond to that, one concern then that I have is that the Employee Relations Committee is currently without a chairperson. So that whoever is the chairperson of that committee going forward is going to be taking that up brand new to go into negotiations potentially with no plan.
Well, the chair will be somebody who's on the committee now.
Well, that would be my assumption.
Oh, yeah.
But nevertheless, being on the committee and being the chair are slightly different things, and it's just another concern, I guess, that I have.
Allison, what are your thoughts?
I'm struggling with this because I agree that this plan is so flawed that I don't think we can, I just don't think that we can dress it up and make things better. At the same time, I'm very concerned with having nothing. I'm with Joe on this one. I think it's tough to absolutely have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's why I was asking last meeting is, what did we do before? Because it was before my time.
Well, what
You
we
know?
had before was the old steps and lanes, which everybody
so-
else in the state had.
We had a period of time between steps and lanes where we were no longer following steps and lanes, and this one, where we would alternate between, some years we would give everybody a percentage increase, some years we'd give everybody
Yeah,
a
for a
flat
couple of
dollar
years
amount.
we did that, yeah.
And then we would use some market-driven, kind of where they're at, or Becky would use some of the old pace, steps and lanes as far as placing people, what we hire people at, et cetera. And so we did operate for a couple years without a plan. And so,
You know, and in terms of hiring people, like Joe said, that was probably less problematic because most districts were in that same boat, that same transition from one thing to something else.
Okay.
Yoli?
Yeah, yeah, let's take apart the new hirings, but with the people that is right now under this plan, and we get rid of it, how many people will be affected negatively if we do that, if we just do not use the career ladder plan?
Well, we wouldn't cut anybody's pay. I mean, that's always been our commitment. that
So everybody
we
will
that.
lose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I raised my hand. I was hoping I could just, a couple things that I would just want you to consider. One thing is when staff ask about how we determine increases, it's terribly embarrassing right now to not be able to clearly articulate to them what we're doing. They do understand if you say something like, generally, the board over the past few years has given a 2.5% increase. I always tell them that's never a guarantee, but they understand that they understand. And then the second thing that I would just want you to consider is because of this time of we're not real sure where we're at or what we're going to do, we are really, the time that is going to be required if you're not going to be looking at some kind of directive until mid-October, we really aren't going to be able to start doing too much of this until November, when this really should have been done right away in September.
You're talking about the leveling over process?
And the opting in. I
Yeah.
mean, those are long processes. And so I am a little bit concerned just about the time.
So the reason I brought that up is because if somebody's already my understanding is the level over period is like a 3-year period,
Right.
their evaluation. So
Right.
if they're two years in, this would be their year to do that.
Yeah, you're right.
So-
We have done it for 2 years, so I do see that. This would be the 1 year that those people that maybe were waiting, this would be the 1 year that they could have the opportunity to level over.
Your concern about time sounds very legitimate to me. I'm wondering whether you would entertain maybe making this decision a little sooner in light of that, or if you're pretty set on. I mean, it's
Well,
obviously your call.
the soonest that it could possibly be done, because it wasn't noticed for a vote tonight. And we've
Well,
also
right.
got 2 people missing.
I wasn't talking tonight.
Yeah, but the soonest we could possibly do it is at the October 2nd meeting. Tim won't be here for that, but I don't know that we necessarily have to have Tim here for that decision. And John and Donna have both been here for some discussion on this point. But that's really the soonest that you can get a decision out of the board. And yeah, I appreciate that things have not worked well for you.
Well, yeah, and it's not about me, but it's just.
Yeah, I know, but for the work you have to do is what
Yes.
I mean, yeah. Tim, what are your thoughts? You haven't said anything yet.
Yeah, I feel like I need more information on the implications both ways. I mean, I'm quite confused as to what it looks like if we don't have anything in place. I understand what you said about employee relations have been empowered to do that, but I'm unsure as to what exactly they would do. So I'm leaning towards supporting staying with it, even though it is flawed. I am confident that the compensation committee will come up with a proposal for us. But if right now it feels like we're between a rock and a hard place, I guess that's where I'm at. And so, so until I have more information about what it's going to look like if we were to just get rid of it right now, it's hard for me to support not staying with it, even though I have serious concerns, as I think many people do with it.
Well, what information do you need? What can administration get you or anybody else? Aside from the crystal ball.
I think that's you know what I think I've said all along, and I don't want to bring up the whole point, but we've criticized steps and lanes for years, but it was pretty clear cut, and there's still things about this current plan I'm clueless on, quite frankly, and so I'm not even sure what questions to ask at this point of the Employee Relations Committee in regards to what I would need. I think I need to look at it a little bit more. But again, I'm just not really sure what it looks like if we don't have a plan in place, how things are determined for the rest of the year.
Well, I mean, what I can tell you, at least on that last point, is if we do not have a plan, then each school year, the board tells the Employee Relations Committee, this is how much money you have to negotiate for staff pay increases. And you decide how it's equitably distributed. I mean, that's essentially what's been done all along. The only thing that the board is allowed to negotiate with its represented employees is a cost of living increase. Well, cost of living's been so small the last several years that it's a given that we're going to do that, and we've done more than that, you know, since since we had this plan for sure. If we don't have any kind of compensation plan, it's basically, I would imagine that it would be something like everybody's base pay stays where it is, and then it goes up by some amount. Like Tim said, for 1 year, it was a flat dollar amount for everybody, say $800, $1,000, whatever. For another year, it could be a percentage increase, 1.5%, 2.5%, 3%, whatever. And, you know, going to predictability, as Becky said, we have, and you can look at the percentage increases that have been given over the last several years and, you know, kind of predict, all other things being equal, that's likely what would happen, but it's not, you know, it's basically just based on, are you still with the district or not, and not on anything else. And that's not exactly a satisfactory way, I think, for everybody of figuring out how much you're going to get paid from 1 year to the next, because it doesn't have anything to do with what you do, how you contribute, extra education you've received, etc. I mean, it's not a long-term plan, I guess is what I'm saying.
I mean, at least if we go to a flat amount or a percentage, it is at least transparent, which is the one thing you can really say for it.
Right.
And it's very clear cut, and you know everybody's getting the same.
Right. Anybody else have anything they want to say on this tonight? Okay.
Now, it would be nice to hear from some staff what they think, because I mean, obviously, it's really going to affect, like you said, people that we're going to. I mean, I say level up, but it's a career ladder. You don't go sideways on a ladder, so it's up or down. But you know, it just, that's, you know, they've been working on it, and they've been putting a lot into it, and that's hard to say, that's great, that we're going to do this instead.
Here's my thinking, for whatever that's worth. I think you make a good point, Tim. Yeah, we're in a tough spot. Partly of our own making, partly of circumstances. And if the committee is unable to come up with a concrete solution by May, and here's the other thing, you know, if they come up with a proposal first week in May, one of the things that really, really hurt us with this current plan is it was rolled out to the board for approval in May of 2015. Or was it 14? I'm forgetting now. Was it 14 or 15?
15.
15. And people got placed in that plan over the summer, and they were out of the buildings, so it was difficult to answer people's questions immediately. As Tim said, I completely agree that we absolutely cannot make that same mistake again, because I think that that was a large portion of why we're in the fix we're in now. Which means that if they come up with a plan in May, we really can't do anything in terms of implementing it until the beginning of the school year after that at the soonest, which is going to be, you know, the 18-19 school year. I also think that we've got to do a much, much better job of getting input from staff on any proposed new plan before the board votes on it, which I think is going to push it even further into the 18-19 school year before the board realistically makes a final decision. So to go that long, you know, possibly, you know, not just this school year, but the next one and perhaps even one after that without any kind of plan. I think that could be very problematic. I'm not happy with the plan we got right now. Everybody agrees and has agreed for all along that there are some changes that need to be made. And, you know, maybe there are some tweaks, as you were saying, Joe, that could be implemented. I guess the problem with that is we still have the thing we got. But to have nothing for a prolonged period of time could be problematic. Anybody have anything else they want to say? Okay. Well, unless I hear strong opinion to the contrary, this will be on the agenda for a vote either October 2nd or October 18th at the very latest. So if any of you have thoughts on the timing, please let me know. Okay, thank you. Final discussion item, board vacancy. A copy of policy 111, vacancies and resignations, was in board docs in preparation for this meeting. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to walk through it again now unless people have questions about anything. I have not yet heard that anybody's applied for the vacancy. Did you check tonight,
Yeah,
Yoli?
I did.
Thanks. Okay. So nobody so far. I would imagine somebody will.
Deadline is when? Is it soon or?
The 26th, I believe, is the deadline, right? Isn't that what we put in the ad?
Oh, so there's still plenty of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully somebody will.
I would imagine.
Let me check.
So, any questions about any of that? Okay, thanks. All right. So, our next regular meeting is October 2nd, and that is where we will interview the candidate or any other candidates that apply for the vacancy. I would imagine that we will vote, well, we will vote on candidates and hopefully seat one that night. So the next board meeting then is, not the 18th, I'm sorry, the 16th of October. Finance meets on the 16th. Facilities meets tomorrow at 6?
6:30.
6:30?
I believe, yeah.
Okay. And policy meets on the 2nd.
Nope, nope, 6. You're
6,
right.
that's what I thought, okay.
Everyone's welcome to come, but it's at 6, not 6:30.
Okay, yeah, don't come late. And the homecoming tailgate starts at 4:30?
4:30.
Excellent, and it's supposed to be a nice night, so. Our football team is undefeated so far.
5-0.
I don't know when the last time was that happened.
Nobody can remember.
I have to have Mel look into it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been probably decades. Okay, so unless there's anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So,
Joe, seconded by Yoli?
Second.
Okay, second by Allison. Any discussion on whether or not we should adjourn? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you all.